Hey, this is Tony with Salt Strong, and we're going to be talking about why you may be missing more fish when using lures with inline replacement hooks. Now, there are a few reasons as to why this happens, and the first big one being just the fact that when you do put inline hooks on your bait, now you only have 2 hook points exposed, or if it's a 3-hook lure, you only have 3 hook points exposed, as opposed to, either 6 or 9 hook points exposed. So you are reducing the amount of possible areas where you can hook the fish. So that's really the biggest reason why you are going to miss more fish if you switch from treble hooks to inline hooks. But inline hooks are definitely going to be much better for the fish. Again, you are limited to less hook points that are exposed, so minimal damage to the fish when you do actually hook into them. Now, with that being said, because of the reduced amount of exposed hook points, you're going to miss a lot of the smaller fish because they really can't get a big part of that bait into their mouth unless they just happen to grab the hook itself. So if a smaller fish goes and attacks the lure, hits it on the side or hits it at the front of the bait, and doesn't hit it in the back and grabs one of those hooks, you're going to miss those smaller fish, as opposed to bigger fish that can get pretty much a bigger part of the lure into their mouth, and they're more likely to get hooked by one of those hooks. Now, another reason why you may be missing strikes when using inline hooks is because you may have the hooks on improperly. And what I mean by that is you want the front hook facing forward. You want that hook point facing towards the front of the bait on the front hook, and then on the back hook, you want that hook point facing to the rear. And again, that comes down to having the hook points exposed. If, this front hook, if it was facing to the rear, like so, as you're retrieving that lure, that hook is going to hide up next to the body, and that's going to cause you to miss strikes. And with the back hook, this one's not as important as the front one, but if you do have it facing, forward, if a fish goes to strike from behind and that hook point is not exposed outwards, you're going to miss a lot of fish that way. So just make sure your hooks are placed properly and facing the right direction. Now also, you have to consider the hook size. You don't want to go too big with these hooks, and you don't want to go too small with these hooks. And that's going to cause you to miss fish as well. If the hooks are too big, it's going to be too big for the fish to actually get hooked on. And if they're too small, the body of the lure is actually going to get in the way when you try to hook those fish. So the way I like to determine, what hook size, this is just a general rule of thumb I go with. I like to measure it up to the actual treble hook that came off of the bait. And what I like to do is basically measure from one point of the treble hook to another point on the treble hook. Measure that gap or that distance there. And then that gap or that distance should be the same size gap or distance between the point of the single hook and the shank of the single hook. So if we put those up close to each other, as you can see, they are pretty similar in width from one side to the other. So again, make sure you have your hooks facing the right direction, you have the right size hooks, and also make sure you have the right style of hooks. As you can see, these inline hooks, they are basically J hooks, but look at the eye. The eye is in line with the actual, shape of the hook. It's in line with the hook, as opposed to a standard J hook where the eye is facing the opposite direction. So the eye is 90 degrees to the actual point of the hook. So make sure you're not using just standard J hooks with that eye, that standard eye, and also make sure you're not using circle hooks. A lot of people make the mistake of putting circle hooks on their bait, and that's really going to reduce the chances of you catching a fish, because circle hooks, they're typically used for live or cut bait where the fish can actually take the entire bait, and then as the fish swims off, it gets hooked on its own just from the resistance of the fish pulling on the hook. So definitely make sure you are using the right hooks. We do sell inline replacement hooks on our website. You can go to fishstrong.com and you can purchase them there. And if you're one of our insider members, you do get 20% off, so you can definitely take advantage of that discount. And then lastly, when it comes to missing strikes when using inline hooks, make sure you take a look at the points on your hooks, because if you get these hooks stuck on structure, on a rock or a tree limb or something like that, over time, what I found is that the hook points will actually break off at the very tip if they're pretty worn out. So make sure those hook points are nice and sharp. Every time you go to tie them on or you go to make a cast, just do a quick check on those hook points, because I have missed a lot of fish on hook points that were very dull or broken off.
If you are new to Salt Strong, we are the largest online fishing club for saltwater anglers, and we guarantee you two things. Number one, you'll start catching more fish in less time. And number two, you will save a ton of money on your favorite tackle and gear with discounts available exclusively for our members. To learn more, go to saltstrong.com and we'll see you there.
There's something about the water that'll give you peace, all by yourself or with your family. Live Salt Strong and wear the line today.